Howdy, I'm Zac Stevenson, mechanical engineer at Cleary Zimmerman Engineers here in Bryant College Station, and I'm here to answer your burning MEP questions on our series called MEP 101. All right, our first question. What inspired you to pursue a career in mechanical engineering? My answer isn't all that exciting. I actually wanted to be a physics major before I wanted to be a mechanical engineering major, but I thought that a mechanical engineering degree would be more applicable than physics. When I found out that I wanted to be an MEP mechanical engineer specifically was when Wade Cleary came into the seminar at Texas A&M and sort of described what his everyday work life was, and his descriptions of what a mechanical engineer did really inspired me to want to pursue a career in MEP mechanical engineering. Our next question is, what does it mean to be a project manager on a project? There are a lot of roles that fall inside the category of project manager, but I think first and foremost, you need to manage both internal design team within the MEP firm, as well as manage coordination with other firms and the owner on a project. As the project manager, you need to both be an emissary for your team's needs to the project as a whole, but also keep your design team on track and keep the project moving forward. All right, our next question is, what are the most effective methods of coordination in the design process? There are a lot of different ways to communicate through the design process. You can communicate via phone call, email, meetings in person, or even text message. And I think it's the responsibility of a project manager to understand which is the correct method. If it's a very important idea that needs to be spread throughout the design team, an email broadcast to everybody in writing is probably a good way to do that. But if it's an in-depth design consideration that isn't well captured in email, it might be best to have a phone call and then follow up with an email. As long as the ideas are effectively presented to the proper parties in one way or another, I think there are a lot of valid ways to communicate. All right, our next question is, why do engineers stamp drawings? Similar to the rest of the answers to these questions, there are a lot of different reasons. There is a certain amount of pride that an engineer takes in putting their stamp on the drawing, so I think there is a benefit to that. If you are proud of the work you are presenting and your name is on it, you're likely to deliver a better project. It also ensures that somebody with the proper education and experience is leading the design, so it is done effectively and isn't just left to chance. And I think finally, there is a certain component of liability to it. If something does go wrong, a stamp on the drawings does give the design team somebody to talk to and ask questions and find an effective way to solve a problem. Our next question is, what is the first step in HVAC design? It might be easy to think that the first step in HVAC design involves a calculator, but in my experience, the first step is talking to the owner or end user of a building to really understand what the usage of the building is and what the needs of the owner are to engineer a valid design to solve those needs. Before you can start doing heat load calculations or sizing air handling units, you need to know if they're going to be manufacturing in the facility, doing desk work, or exercising so that you can design the right system. Another question we've got is, do you see AI becoming a key component in designing buildings? I think that as time progresses, AI is going to have a bigger impact on all industries. I think the impact to start will be minor in our engineering AEC design world. I think that there is such a specific personal touch required in the design process that handing over the design to an AI as a whole is pretty unlikely for a while, but optimizing discrete tasks or simplifying processes are likely something that'll go to AI sooner rather than later. I really like this question. How are commercial HVAC systems controlled? My favorite aspect of mechanical engineering design is actually the controls of a building. In a residential HVAC system like you have at your house, you punch the button on the thermostat to make it warmer or punch the button to make it cooler. But in a large-scale commercial HV design, the controls are a little bit more sophisticated. There are scheduling aspects to change the set points on the weekends versus on weekdays versus on Christmas when nobody's in the building. And so there's something called a building automation system that controls the entire HVAC systems and even sometimes other systems in the building like lighting or security. And this overall security system makes sure that all of the systems are operating simultaneously to effectively operate a building. Another question we've got is, what does it mean to design a building to code? This is a fun one. Designing a building to code first requires that you figure out what codes govern the building. Codes are a set of rules and regulations on either a local, state, or even international level to set requirements for operations of MEP systems to structural systems, all the way to how a building is operated. And so by referencing these codes and guidelines, it ensures that a system is both effective as well as energy efficient. All right, next question has to yet again do with design coordination. How does ductwork design play into the architectural design of some buildings? So ductwork is a big piece of the mechanical engineering process, both during the design process and physically. Ducts are large components that take up a lot of space. And so depending on the architectural design, we might need to hide that ductwork by putting it above ceiling or in a fur down or even behind walls. Or the architect might want to make it a feature. And in that case, you need to make sure your ductwork is designed symmetrically and aesthetically in a place that is coordinated with the architect to make it stand out and pop in the space. Another question we've got is, describe a unique project you've worked on recently. Construction recently just finished on the Legends Event Center here in Bryan. It is a large community center with 8 sport courts, meeting rooms, arcade, esports, and concessions. It is a big building, both in its footprint and in its impact in the community. There are sports tournaments being held there, meetings being held there, conferences, and just for fun, there's an arcade in there too. All right, that's our last question. Thanks everybody for tuning in.